first copyrighted Angels Without Wings before I finished writing the play. It was, the title didn't even have the title it has now. It was Untitled Work by Pam Leah.
Wow, okay.
And then when I finished it and I came up with the title for the play, then I re-registered it again as Angels Without Wings. And then 2 years later, I decided to translate it into a Spanish version of my play. And then I re-registered it as Ángeles Sin Alas, a translated version of Angels Without Wings, so that nobody could steal my work legally. And believe me, people tried.
Wow, wow. Okay. So you're saying that there are playwrights out here that will actually steal your work, huh? Is that what you're saying?
Not even playwrights. The most notable times, I had someone, well, I actually didn't have someone. I was performing my play for a school, and they had a person that was handling their public relations, and they filmed my play. And
Wow.
without my permission, they put a clip of my play on the internet.
Oh, wow.
Someone told me about it. And at first I got absolutely furious. I was so upset I wanted to call lawyers right away, but then a very wise friend of mine said, Pam Leah, hold off. They're giving you free publicity. You can let them hang out there doing whatever they want to do with it. When they start to try and get money, then that's when you go after them. And actually it was very simple, because since they didn't have a release from myself or the actors involved, they didn't know one of the actors was actually a minor, so they ended up paying us all a lot of money.
Oh, wow, wow. So in the long run, you end up getting a big chunk of the chip anyway.
I had another time, early on in the game, when people would want to do auditions, I'd send them the script. But I learned my lesson about that, because one time someone got a hold of my script, and then when I wanted to do some shows later down the road with a promoter, he came at me and said, well, I thought this was your work. I'm like, of course it is. He says, well, you don't have the copyrights. And I showed him my paperwork. As it turned out, someone had gone to the halfway houses in the state that I lived in and was performing my play in halfway houses and getting paid for it. And I had to go after not only them, I went after the state that I lived in. I got paid from them, too.
Oh, wow. Wow, okay. So how much money can I get from you? No, I'm just kidding.
I'll give you a percentage. Go find me somebody to sue, and I'll give you a percentage.
Oh, wow, wow. So, we were talking because the young lady brought up about insurance, because each week I try to pull out a word that a playwright might say. And one particular playwright said the word, and we have not spoke on this, about insurance. Where would someone get insurance? A playwright, a director, get insurance? You're all the way in North Carolina. Where would they go? To Geico Insurance? Would they go to Allstate?
What they do is go to Google and Google event insurance and the state, and they'll pull up all the companies that do event insurance, because that's what you want. Event insurance is liability assurance, so that if anyone that's in the audience injures themselves, and they also would look into a workman's comp insurance for their actors, they write policies for that. I always have event insurance for large events that I'm doing.
Wow. So one particular playwright, she was telling me that you have to have insurance at the venue, and I was asking the question. So you're trying to tell me that if I go to the restroom at your particular theater out there, you don't own it. You're just renting the space to have your play, and I slip on the floor because the janitor mopped up the floor because somebody wasted soda or something on the floor. You mean I can sue you as well?
Yeah, of course you can.
But it's not.
You can sue them. You can sue whoever employed the person that did not mop up the floor. You could sue the company that owns the building, which it might not have anything to do with who's running the business there. You can sue all of them.
Oh, wow. Let me get into business of suing people. Let me
You don't want that, because now, with all the technology, they look for you on Facebook, and if they see you out dancing someplace, you'll see the star. They're very, very crafty now about the way they research stuff like that. But all jokes aside, most venues that are larger venues, when you rent it out, there's a clause in there called a held harmless clause, and it says basically that if anybody hurts themselves, that they, as the owner of the venue, are not responsible. So that's why you really have to have event insurance.
Wow. Okay. Let's get back to your production. What was the process of you going through your productions? Did you have to deal with divas? Did you have to deal with the mega stars? And did you have any superstars in your, or I hate to say has-beens, or actors that have not been on the scene for a while? They used to be back on the TV shows back in the 80s or the 70s. And have you had any of those type of actors?
Yes, but not here in North Carolina. My most recent performances, I had local actors. I was very, very fortunate to acquire some actors that were really good.
Okay. Is it better to work with local actors? What would you tell newcomers? I'm somebody who's looking to do a stage play. What would you tell me about this industry?
Well, what I would say is when you first start to do your shows, to be very careful on your expenses, because a lot of people don't understand that there are a lot of expenses that are associated with producing a show. A lot of times they pay too much money for things like, for example, finding a rehearsal space. That can be quite expensive. I know in New York, rehearsal space was like $20 an hour, and you would take like maybe 3 or 4 hours at a time. So that could get to be quite expensive. But here in North Carolina, I've been very fortunate. I did my research since I'd had experience in that area of knowing how costly rehearsal space can be. And I found free space at the library.
Wow.
Meeting rooms.
Okay.
That saved me a ton of money. And then I developed a relationship with a church, and I was able to have my rehearsals there at no cost.
Okay.
You know, so I always suggest to people that they really look in their community to see where they can rehearse at, because that's like a hidden cost that you don't really think about until it adds up.
Is there a particular way to guide someone to do a proper show? I was sitting here approximately 2 weeks ago with Mr. Victor Gully, and we were looking at a play on TV here at the radio station. And I know he probably got tired of me asking him questions about the play, but I'm not in the industry. I'm in the radio industry. But he was explaining to me that the play is starting off slow. When you go to a play and you see the play starting off at a slow rate, do you just stay there and watch it and see how it play out, or do you just get up and leave, or do you go and talk to the play director or the stage producer after all the set is done?
Well, you mean when you mean as like part of the audience that you go to see a play?
Yes.
And you think it started out slow? Well, I guess I'm not the right person to ask that question to, because my play actually starts out with a bang. But I've seen some plays that started out slow, but I always like to wait. I'm patient, because a lot of times plays unfold, and it's just like telling any story. In the middle, there are pieces that link it to the first part of the play, and then you begin to see the whole picture. I think it's an individual writing style. It's however the playwright wants to present it. Some people like to hit it with a bang. Some people like to keep the audience guessing until the very end. But I think a good play is a good play. That you should give every play a chance and see it to the end.
Are playwrights afraid of TV?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. You were breaking up.
I said, are playwrights afraid of TV? I speak with many playwrights on Playwright Tuesday, and I ask them the same question about, is there a particular TV program? And they all say the same thing. They don't watch TV. They don't have time to watch TV. Are you a director that does not watch TV as well?
Well, I watch TV. But what I do is I go through the guide. Sometimes it's a couple of weeks in advance, and I pick out shows that I want to watch, and I record them so that I can watch them, at my leisure, and I don't have to miss anything just because I'm watching the show. Because I'm like a lot of people in this country. I'm an Empire fan.
Okay.
So I record all my Empires, and when I get ready, I'll sit down and watch all of them.
Well, get yourself a Hulu, get yourself a Roku device, and you can watch Empire 24/24 all day, back and forth, back and forth.
Oh, God forbid.
So you won't miss a scene. Sit there and in the privacy of your own home. But
exactly.
As a veteran in this industry, how many times have you had to come across a venue that just did not do you right?
Actually, a couple of times.
And how did you handle it? What would you tell a playwright how to handle it, the situation? Just go off the handle, or just jump up and go and get a lawyer?
Something I've learned through this process is that you lose all ground that you've gained in the situation when you fly off the handle. If something wasn't proper, and I haven't experienced this down here, this was like very on in our career. We got to a theater, and the theater was dirty. It was in a gymnasium, and it was dirty. And I was the first one there. I usually, when I'm doing a production, I always like to arrive early, because if there are any issues, I want to try and clear them up before my cast gets there. Because when my cast gets there, I just want them to be concerned about the business at hand. There was garbage in the entrance backstage, so when you walk past going to the stage, you smell this garbage. And there was stuff all over the floor. So one thing I learned about being a manager of anything, that if there's no one there to do it, you better do it yourself. So I went and I took my high heels off, and I took my suit jacket off, and I found a broom, and I started sweeping the floor. After I finished all of this, I presented them with a bill.
And how much was your bill?
My bill was $400.
Wow. Did they pay you?
Well, I didn't see the arrangement that I had with them. I didn't have to give them the balance for the venue until I actually, finished the first performance. And the balance for the venue was $410.
Okay, so you did a little
So
bargaining.
I just handed them that piece of paper and told them have a great evening.
So, did they come back at you or anything with any recourses?
They tried, but I actually ended up getting more money because then I added on my legal costs.
Wow. I need to get with you. You're the legal eagle here.
Well, I do have a slight advantage. I retired from the Superior Court of the state that I lived in after 20 years of service, and I was a manager.
Oh, wow.
I worked in quite a few different divisions, so I knew law about at many levels, not just at Superior Court level, the local level, too.
Okay. So you left the big white-collar job to go into, what would you consider theater work? What you have the blue-collar, you have the white-collar. What would theater work be considered?
Well, entertainment.
Okay,
Actually, I was
entertainment
still
is
working
what?
to the courts when I put all my